Hi everyone, it's Kerry back with you today. So I was playing with some napkins and I decided I wanted to make some sort of washi tape style tape using my napkins. Now I've seen this done multiple times before. This is not my idea and I'm sure most of you have probably already seen it. But then I also wanted to have a go at making some of my own designs using stamps and the inside or the waste part of the napkin. So sometimes when we have a napkin, we like to use the pretty top layer, but then these sort of inside white layers, we generally either throw them away or stick them aside to do something with later. So today's one of those days where I'm going to do something with it later, if I can ever peel it apart. All right, so this is a 3-ply napkin. So this is the beautiful patterned layer, and then there's actually 2 more layers here, and I'm not sure if you can see, but there is actually still a little tiny bit of a print showing through on this second layer, and sometimes that will just add to your design. A lot of the times you won't actually see it once you've added all your colour and stamps and whatnot. So I'm just going to get these separated. So there we go. So now I have my 3-ply napkin all divided into its individual plies. So these are some that I have created earlier. I'll show you exactly how I've created these ones using the napkin, and then we'll get on and make some of our own. So to begin with, I've got this lovely piece of napkin that is the top layer of the 3-ply napkin that I just pulled apart. And I need some double-sided tape. Now, if you don't have any double-sided tape, you can just use strips of paper and a glue stick, just like regular weight copy paper. But I'm going to be using the double-sided tape today. And I'm actually going to, this is a very wide tape. I've got a thinner one to show you as well. And I think this tape is actually, I'm not sure if it's a carpet tape or some kind of industrial double-sided tape because it's like super strong. So I'm just going to cut a couple of pieces of this. Actually, we'll just start with one. So you need to make sure that you're applying your double-sided tape or your strip of paper to the back side of your napkin so that we're leaving the front as the top layer of our tape. Now, if you're doing the paper and glue stick method, you just need to cut your layer, cut your strip of paper, and then you want to apply your glue stick onto the paper. You don't want to try and apply it to the napkin because it won't, it'll just tear your napkin. So I've laid my napkin out as flat as I can. If your napkin's a little bit creased, you can lightly spritz it with water and it will help it sit flat. And I'm just going to pick up my tape and I'm going to apply. It's actually on the table here and on the edge of the tape so that I can use my other hand to help pull the napkin flat so I'm not getting too many creases. If I get a few in there, it doesn't bother me, but I want to have it, you know, as straight as I possibly can. Once you've got one layer of tape down, it's a lot easier to get more layers of tape down because the napkin's already being held by these 2 layers. So I'll do another layer of the thick tape. So again, I'm just going to apply it on one edge first and smooth out that napkin. So here I have a thinner double-sided tape. This one's not as sticky. And just the same thing, I'm just going to apply it on one side of the napkin first. Stretch it out. Okay, so now I have all of these strips on my napkin. Now, If you want to get a very straight edge along the edge of the double-sided tape, so your washi tape is straight, then you'll need a very, very sharp blade and a cutting mat. So I'm just going to tear that across there. Okay, so I've got my strips here. What I should have mentioned earlier is once you have your strips down, you need to give them a really good burnish. Make sure you've got them all adhered properly. Otherwise, when you tear them up, you might have little pieces of the napkin come away. Now, that's not going to bother me for this because I will just go over that with a little bit of corn flour and you won't really notice it because the back design is already white. But if it was a very colourful napkin, then you would notice that quite easily. So I'm just going to cut these sticky ends off now so they don't accidentally get stuck to themselves. Okay, so I've just brought in a cutting mat and I have a very sharp blade here. Now the edge on my tape is quite significant, so I could just make sure this is burnished down on the edges first because I don't want my knife to drag it and tear it. I could carefully run my blade along the edge of my double-sided tape because this edge is quite firm enough to catch the blade. And then I can just take that piece off and I've got a nice straight edge along my tape. But if you don't have the ability to rest the knife against the edge of the tape, you can just use a ruler or a pair of scissors if you feel more confident to do it that way. Okay, so now I have this lovely piece of washi type tape and I'm just going to bring in a journal. So I could find a page that I want to add it to. So let's just add some down this edge here. So I can just peel the backing off and line it up on my page. Straight as a dog's hind leg, but that's okay. And so now I've got a lovely piece of sort of washi style tape there, and it feels really nice being a napkin. It's sort of a cross between paper and fabric. It just adds a nice little element there. So the other thing that you might want to do instead of cutting is leaving the edges rough, just torn off at the edge, and that gives it a bit more of a rustic look. So I'll just bring this journal in again and find another page. So I think I'll just add this one on the back here, and again just going to cut that off about there. There we go, and that's got a bit more of a sort of rustic looking edge on it, just with the torn edge. Hopefully you can see that there. So then the same with these smaller or thinner pieces. You can leave them with a rustic sort of torn looking edge, or you can cut along the edge of your tape to get a nice straight washi style edge. So maybe you would like to make something a little bit more unique using stamps and your own colourway. So I've brought in, this is one of the plies from the inside of a napkin, and here is another piece. Now, I do have a video which I'll link below that I made quite a few years ago where I coloured some white napkins using Lindy's sprays, and that's what these ones are here. You don't need to use sprays. You can use just regular inks and some water, but I show you how to do this technique in that video. I will show you how to do it with ink pads today, but if you want to have a look at the other video, you'll be able to see how I did it with sprays. I'm just going to lay these on top of each other and then fold them in half just to make it a little bit thicker. And I've just got some water, and I'm going to spray quite a bit of water on here. And then I'm going to bring in some distress ink, and I've got some speckled egg here. Just going to lay some down on this mat. And some pumice stone. This is actually an oxide. So I'll start with those two first. I'm just going to add quite a bit of water, and I'm laying the napkin over the top and just picking that colour up. Now you may need to build the colour up in layers depending on what colours you choose. Obviously darker colours are going to show up a lot quicker, and as the napkin gets more wet, it will become more fragile, so you might lose some bits like I am here. So now I have a very soggy and colourful piece of tissue or napkin here, and I need to dry this off thoroughly. Okay, so I've dried these off thoroughly, and just opening the back up to their single layer. Okay, so I have my two layers here. Now you can just leave it like that and go ahead and start popping your tape on, but I want to get some more variation in my background here. So I'm going to come back in with some water, and I know, we just spent all that time drying it, but I'm just going to apply splashes onto the napkin. I don't want to soak the whole napkin. I just want to get those water blooms happening. And once I'm happy with how that looks, I'm just going to go ahead and dry that off again. Okay, now ideally you want to have this thoroughly dry before you move on to the taping part, and then decide which side you would like to be the front of your tape. Just work on one at a time, I think. Now, because of the heating, these are a little bit sort of warped and wrinkled now, and I don't mind a few wrinkles, but I don't want them, all super wrinkly. So I'm just going to stick it to the table first, slide my napkin into place, and help flatten out my napkin. So all kinds of crooked there, but doesn't really matter. Embrace the wonk, as Rennie would say. And I'm going to cut a second piece of tape. And do a couple of skinny tapes as well. Might be able to fit one more in. Now this time I need to make sure I give it all a good press down. And this time I don't want to tear them up separately, so I'm going to try and lift them up as one. Might have to go in with my scissors, I think. Now I'm actually going to use these bits of tape to my advantage and use that to stick back down to my table right side up this time. And I'm just going to adhere the other side down with another little bit of tape. Preferably not lumpy. Okay, so I could leave my tapes just as they are, and I think they look pretty and they're nice and unique. But I want to come in and add some stamping just to make them a little bit more unique for what I want to use them for. And this time I'm going to use some archival based ink or a permanent ink. So if I want to add some more water, it's not going to affect my stamped images. And I'm just going to come in with my stamps. I'll start this one. And I'm just going to randomly add them onto my tapes here and there. Now I have to remember that this tape is wonky, so if I want these to be straight, I need to actually put them on a bit of an angle. And I'm going to do some both vertically and horizontally. So there we go. You can, of course, add as much or as little stamping as you like, and then it's just a matter of separating our tapes again. So I'm just going to tear this one and tear along the edge here as well. Cut off my sticky bits, and I've got this sort of rustic looking tape with the torn edges. So I'm just going to use my metal ruler here with my knife so I get a nice straight edge along the edge of the tape. So now I have these pretty cool looking custom tapes that I can use in my projects. Now the colour isn't actually showing up very truly on the image, on the camera. It's actually a little bit more vibrant in real life. So I'll make sure I pop some photos in at the end. And I'm just going to bring in my ideas journal and pick a page for us to add some to. Okay, I think we'll add some here. So we've got some pretty cool looking custom washi, and again it almost feels like fabric. And I'll pick another page to add some of the skinny one. Maybe we'll just add some along the bottom here. Nope, don't like it. Yep, just pop some along the bottom here. There we go. So heaps of options available for creating your own tapes to match your projects, and great for using up those middle layers of our decoupage napkins. So I hope that gives you some ideas and perhaps inspires you to make some of your own custom tapes. I will leave a link in the description box below to the shop where you can find some of our lovely decoupage napkins and also our documented stamp set, which I've used in today's project. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you again next time. Bye.